got back from the States, mate, what did you learn? What were the standouts? What was the highlights of the trip?
I learned that Nashville is a pretty wild place.
Yeah.
People fly in from all over the world. There was a pretty decent Australian contingent over there.
So it's like Kentucky, you go over and just party with Australians. Like,
well, you're meant to go over there and learn some things. So.
Okay.
Welcome everyone to another episode of A Beer with a Brewer. It's been a couple of weeks, I think, since we did the last one, but today I'm joined by Matty Fay. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. How about yourself?
Very well. Thanks for coming in.
It's okay.
Today we are here to have a chat about our latest release. Everybody's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
New England IPA.
Everybody's doing what?
Everybody's doing it.
Oh, okay. What are we doing?
Sitting here talking about beer.
Cool.
Yeah.
We can do that.
So I'm trying to think back what we actually did to make this beer.
Well, maybe it would refresh your memory if we cracked one.
Yeah.
And you had a sip.
Absolutely.
And you might be able to talk me through it.
Recently travelled over to America for the CBC and then did a bit of touring around. Went to a few different breweries, hop farms and other various beer-related events.
Yes, I was keeping track on the socials.
Yes, cheers.
Cheers, mate. Very nice.
Looking nice.
Sun's just poking through in the brewery. It's perfect time to raise a glass.
Beautiful time of day to sit here and taste the beer.
Absolutely.
So, mate, the inspiration for this one was a bit of your doing in terms of the name and what we were going to do. Obviously, now the beer world is awash with these sort of beers, so hence the name.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess there was a bit of a play on that to try and make it a bit different.
Yeah, I think that was kind of where the concept came from. Everybody's doing it. Just seemed to be like a word or a name that we could really tap into a bit of pop culture, I guess. And that's why we see like a little bit of an almost a retro type of design to the can. Shout out once again to our awesome can designer Verg for this one. So I guess that was my theory, was that typically as a brewery we haven't made too many NEIPAs or hazies and stuff like that. Obviously we've got the Sunset Haze in our core range. Probably the Cryo Days Hazy IPA was maybe the most recent one we did prior to that. But mate, everybody's doing it, so we obviously have to do it as well. That's the rules.
Why not?
And you came up with a bit of a point of difference as to how you're going to make it. And I think if I'm not mistaken, you actually modeled this a little bit based off a beer that you made many years ago.
That's right, the TDH,
yes,
twice dry hopped hazy IPA.
So that was actually one of my favorite beers that you guys had done way back in the day. And that was probably the first sort of NEIPA or a hazy. I didn't really know too much about what they all were at the time. I just remember tasting this beer and I was like, that's what beer should taste like. That's what I think. That's where my love of like these big juicy hop bombs came from. And I think you're saying at the time, twice dry hopped isn't to be confused with doing it twice, two separate occasions rather than double the amount. Is that right?
Well, yeah, this DDH has become a bit of a buzzword or acronym in craft beer. But we're always, what's it actually mean? Is it twice as many times it's been hopped? Is it twice the amount? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
Really, I think it's just a marketing term. But
it is. Cool. It's not one that I've caught on to yet.
So that's why we were having a bit of fun with that, I guess, calling it a twice dry hopped.
And then to confuse things further, you made it 2 times TDH.
Yeah, that's
which
right.
was like a double. But it wasn't double in hops, but double in strength or something like that.
Yeah, it was a double IPA for our birthday.
So pretty confusing with all the acronyms.
We also make a few DDH shippers, so double dry hop, single hop IPAs, which is a bit of a mouthful.
That is quite a tongue twister.
It's all just a bit of fun though in the end.
Yeah.
But with this one, as you say, we've tried to make it a little bit different. Grew up the yeast, got a recently released yeast blend over from White Labs in San Diego, which we actually just visited, called Tropicali. And that yeast is designed for these sort of beers, and it has an enzyme in it that will actually help release thiols in a beer. So thiols are found in grapes, they're found in barley, they're also found in hops. And basically what happens when you release those, it releases a lot of fruit character, put simply. So Sauvignon Blanc, that often smells very passion fruity and that sort of thing. that's thiols that gives it that flavour.
Interesting.
So whilst we've used a lot of hops, we're also using what is called biotransformation, and it releases thiols, a bit of science for you, to help enhance the fruitiness of the beer. So you're getting more fruit character in the beer without using as many hops, I guess.
And so for those playing at home, it sounds like it's a lot different. It's a lot different to just using standard hop pellets or something like that. Using a different.
We're still using hop pellets.
Yeah.
In this, we use 3 different types of hop pellets. So the standard hop pellet is called a T90, and that's basically, I guess, the size of it, for want of a better description.
They look like big rat sack.
Yeah, how concentrated the hop is. Then we've used cryo hops. So basically, the way they process them, they're cryogenically frozen, and they extract the lupulin, which is the flavor compound of the hops. And then another hop that's made in a similar fashion called Lupomax. So we've used 3 different types of hop pellets. They all provide, I guess, different intensity of flavour in the beer. They're trying to layer the flavours a little bit, I guess.
Yep.
Along with that yeast. And then we've also put an enzyme into the fermentation that further helps with that biotransformation project. So that's called aromarase, I think it's called. And that
Not to be
helps.
confused with the aroma hop, something different.
Yeah, the aroma hops are different again. So really trying to enhance the fruitiness of the beer, which these sort of beers are known for,
Excellent.
without just using an excessive amount of hops.
Yeah.
Sort of with hops, the more you use, you sort of get diminishing returns. So
As in, like if you put
double
4,
dry-
5, 6 different types of
yeah,
hops.
double dry hopping isn't necessarily double the perceived hoppiness in a beer. So there is other ways, fermentation and stuff like that you can release the fruity flavors. And then the beer's less prone to getting things like hop burn, I've spoken about before. That's basically when you over hop a beer and then you get all the astringency and bite out of a hop, which is not very pleasant to drink.
No, not at all.
So you're trying to make it soft.
Yeah, this one's very like very fruity, very easy to drink, not overly bitter. Like
That's sort of, these beers aren't meant to be bitter.
No, not like an old school IPA. Obviously New England, like it's a geographical thing, I suppose. Is there a reason it's a New England IPA? Like, where does that come from?
It comes from New England in the States, so which is at the top sort of right corner.
Yeah.
There was a brewery there who sort of made this style by mistake, like a lot of styles originated.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to make what is more a standard IPA, basically released the beer too early and it was full of haze. So normally the haze over time, once the beer's on chill, will fall out. All beers are sort of hazy just after they fermented. So I've tried to release it a bit early, it's hazy, and they're like, oh, this is actually really nice. And then from there, it's sort of become a thing.
And then someone aimed to recreate the mistake, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. Which I think cold IPA was made in a similar fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as opposed to the West Coast IPAs, which are really bitter, they're sort of dank and oily, these are meant to be a lot softer and hazy. And gives that nice sort of juicy, fruity flavour.
And speaking of the hazy, so you were saying like if you were to make say a standard West Coast IPA and then someone's gone and released that early and it's become a New England, then you have like a hazy and an oat cream. Are they all like evolutions of a similar thing?
Yeah, well, yes.
Yeah.
So an oat
they're like
cream
Pokemon, they just evolved from like Pikachu to like, probably a very bad explanation.
So hazy IPA, I guess, is the broader category. And then New England IPA and then oat cream IPA is even, I guess, more sort of over the top. Often oat cream IPAs have lactose in them. So that sort of gives it even more body and sort of creaminess. We've used lactose in a few different sour beers and stuff like that.
Sure.
But again, an oat cream IPA is heavily hopped and quite a big sort of luscious beer. And then the lactose on top of that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you just got back from the States, mate. What did you learn? What were the standouts? What was the highlights of the trip?
I learned that Nashville is a pretty wild place.
Yeah.
That's where the CBC was.
What does that stand for? Like the CBC?
The CBC is the Craft Brewers Conference.
Yeah.
So it's a conference that's held in America.
Yeah.
Around the place, all in different cities each year. And it's basically a brewing conference that goes for 3 days, all different lectures, big trade show, and then sort of events that surround it. So it's obviously American based, a lot of American breweries there, but people fly in from all over the world. There was a pretty decent Australian contingent over there.
So it's like Kentucky, you go over and just fight with Australians. Like,
Well, you're meant to go over there and learn some things. So
okay.
did sit through a couple of lectures while we're there. But they're on sort of all different topics, all the way from technical brewing stuff, sales stuff about running your tap room, sort of more business stuff. So it covers a wide sort of variety of things. So it's a good sort of really good learning sort of expedition.
Yeah, nice.
So we were there, we were at the conference for 3 days. We're in Nashville for 5. Then we flew up north to Portland. So Portland's sort of the home of craft beer in America. It's quite close to where a lot of the hops grow.
Yep.
Checked out a few breweries there, and then toured around, went to Bend in Yakima. Yakima Valley is where a lot of the US hops are grown. So whilst we're there, we went to CLS Farms, which is pretty cool. That's actually where the Neo-Mexicanus varieties originated. So we make the Neo-Mexicanus Black IPA. So it's pretty cool talking about them and letting them know we made that beer, the people that actually came up with the hop. So we're working on a little project with them later in the year with one of their Neo-Mexicanus hops.
Cool.
So that's pretty cool. And then to finish off, we went through Montana, which is where the aroma hops grow. So we made the aroma IPA last year.
Yep.
So we hung out with Tom from Glacier Hops. So that was pretty cool. It was almost like going to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
It's a couple of hours north of where Yellowstone is got. So that was pretty awesome, surrounded by snow-capped mountains.
Great.
He took us out into the national park. Yeah, so it was a pretty big trip.
I feel like I've Googled a lot of these places for inspiration for can designs.
He did a good job because we actually went to that lake where the can was. So Tom was very excited to show us that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the one that you bumped into in Australia,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Yeah.
So that's the lake in Whitefish,
Yeah.
which is where he's from.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. Go and see it all.
Nice. No, I bet you guys would have, yourself and Jay would have come back with a lot of ideas. So
There's a lot of good information. And just traveling around to the different breweries and seeing how they do things in their tap rooms and what sort of beers they're making and that sort of thing.
And that must be a cool thing. Like we've probably spoken about this before on other episodes about, I guess, how collaborative our industry is, where you have these events and the people are willing to share and you can set up a whole trip for 2 weeks or so around.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome.
Evolve or sort of add on to all of that.
They're also welcoming everywhere we went, and they found out we were brewers. They would welcome into their brewery.
Well, that's why I have this flannel. I rock this beard. I just might never know what I might get.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
May as well look like a brewer.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty cool life, mate.
No, it's not all just galloping around drinking beers. We've got to make them at some point.
Not all glamorous.
No,
So I thought I might ask you also. So we've been getting a few different guests on the show at the moment, sort of people around the business. Have you had a favourite moment or a favourite guest on the show so far?
Oh.
Something that stands out?
Are you asking me to say you?
No.
Yeah, we have. We had Dino on recently. He had some pretty good.
Oh, you saying that because Dino here. No, he was
probably-
good. I was going to hit him up to host in your absence, to be honest. I think he's definitely
come back and
up to
big
muscle.
job. I actually thought that might have happened.
Yeah.
It was good to have Gaz on when he came on.
Yes, he was a
So by then he'd actually left working for us.
Yeah.
I managed to rope him in for the Czech Pills.
Gaz was funny. He's like the typical, I don't want to be on camera. And then the camera's rolling and he's a star.
Yeah.
He could host a Today Show or
I
something.
think that one went for like 15, 20 minutes. It was also really good when we made the pink sherbet for International Women's Day.
I like that one too.
Have Joss on.
Yeah.
And also Danielle. But Joss has been in the industry now, I think, for, 8 years or so, doing the hop-on tours. And she's involved in the Indies Beer Awards and also the Queensland. So she gets a really good sort of snapshot of the beer industry. So it's good to sort of listen to her take on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a wealth of knowledge and just a lovely person to have around. So it was cool to see her on.
Yeah, no, it is good to talk to everyone and get everyone's sort of different story, I guess.
Well, my favourite was actually Borg Sanity. He was just like, his one wasn't too very long. He was like an impact player off the bench, like just.
I think that suits him.
Have you ever like watched something? I don't know, it's just like a funny video or something. You're like, why am I laughing at this?
Yeah.
He was telling a story about how you're asking him about, how many kilometers do you drive in a day? He's like, I don't know, like maybe like 1,000. And then he's just saying how he goes home to his missus and is like, let's just go for a drive. I just love driving.
He is a funny guy.
So I kept replaying and laughing at that. I don't know why, but It was awesome.
No, he's always got something funny to say in the brewery. It's good value.
Yeah, he comes out with some good zingers, that's for sure.
He started playing T20 cricket.
He's told me all about it.
Yeah, so he made a 50 on the week.
Yeah.
Pretty happy with his form.
He told me about that.
Yeah.
I mean, one day he might be up to my standard. But
Maybe. He'll be sitting here with his best embarrassed trophy.
yeah, washed up like me.
Yeah.
No, but that's awesome, mate. Well, I think this is a cracker of a beer. Everybody's doing it, but this is our take on it. And yeah, definitely reckon this one
Smelling pretty nice.
Yeah.
This is the
great.
first time I've tried it properly.
Oh,
It
awesome.
got packaged whilst I was away, so it's...
We did a little video here last Friday where I showed my perfect beer pouring skills.
Oh, yes.
One shot wonder. And yeah.
Just like the podcast, mate. It's always a one shot.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. No errors here. But no, mate, this one is a great one. You've done it again. And yeah, everyone should go out and try it.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate.
guys.
Thank you.